Very good evening for everyone. Very good morning for me. I'm in Thailand now. It's 7 in the morning. And today, guys, we have a lot of different topics I'm going to cover. I hope you enjoy. Let's check that I'm sharing my screen. Let me double check with you that you can see that. Can you see the title?
We can see the screen.
Okay, that's great. That's a good start. So just before starting, I wanted just to make sure and cover a few topics. When COVID started, I just started developing what I call the organizational peel, which are 5-minute episodes in YouTube where I cover different topics. It's free, and if you want, guys, you just can access. I try to focus on different topics for change agents, and I hope you enjoy them. So let's go. We have a lot of things to learn today. The focus today is on anyone who wants to influence change in the company. I'm talking about the Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, sometimes HR. And the idea is that you learn a couple of frameworks, guys, that you're going to be able to use straight after this presentation. I hope also you get used to my Spanish accent, so you should be okay with that. So when we start trying to make a change, I always say you have two options. One option is a very caffeinated way of going for the transformation, where we teach many frameworks, as many frameworks like we can into the company. And as I say, you become a very flavored framework company. But the problem with that is that sometimes people do not change the mindset. So what we want to do here is try to see how we make sure that people focus on enterprise agility. And enterprise agility requires that people in the organization change the way they think. And this is such a big challenge. Everyone tried to change the mindset. Everyone tried to change how people think. And it is difficult. And I will explain today why. And I'm going to be covering different topics, such as, for example, neuroscience of change and different frameworks I developed during the last years. I've been working in many, many countries. I've been working in Asia. I'm in Asia now. I've been working in Latin America. I was also helping many consultancies from the United States. I've been working in Europe. And I tell you that whenever you generally have a lot of resistance from people when you want to implement a new change. And sometimes we don't know very well from where resistance is coming from and which techniques to use. So I want to be focusing today in different frameworks, different very simple things that you can use in the company to try to accelerate. And then as soon as I teach something, guys, I want you to I wanted to double check that you are on the same page with me. So I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions and let's see how it goes. Okay. So what is enterprise agility? I want to try to understand what is enterprise agility for you. So let's try to focus on, let's go to the chat box and write any definition that comes to your mind when we talk about enterprise agility. It doesn't have to be, definition that you copy from the internet. Just give me your definition. There is no right or wrong. Give me your definition about enterprise agility. What is enterprise agility? Any definition that comes to your mind, let's go to the chat box and you tell me. I give you 1 minute. So you just go there and write any definition that comes to your mind. And let's see how it goes. Let me see. So we live in change, David, and mindset evolution. There is no right or wrong. And also that's going to help me try to refocus the presentation on your ideas. Adaptive to change, yes, very good. Customer-centric. When agility becomes part of the entire organization and able to respond, that's also good. Yes, excellent. Direction and speed to market. Cool. Give me at least three more, guys. Yeah. Changing culture to serve leadership. Okay, that's great from the leadership point of view. Swift adaptation with respect to the one in immediate environment. Okay, that's great. So we can see that many of you focus from the point of view of culture, some of you leadership, and also we talk about organization being able to respond. Give me two more. I want two more definitions. Let's see. And let's compare that with some ideas. As it's very important when we talk about enterprise agility, I'm going to give you some ideas, but then I want you to elaborate what is enterprise agility for you. So in different companies, the definition can be similar or even different, but we are going to have certain components. Ability for an organization to adapt to change, excellent. Agile as a practice is used by more than a dev team. Oh, that's very, very important. We're going to talk about that. I'm tired of waterfall. Oh my God. Imagine that I've been working in IT since probably the first job I got in software was in 1994. Don't ask me my age. And I've been working with different kind of teams, right? So let's go and see we are on the same page. I'm not going to tell you my age, so you can just try to ignore that part. So let's go first. Let me see. Let's start with a definition. Let me check if there is one more. So this is my definition. This is from my book. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just my definition. I believe that when you want to move in certain direction, it is good to have a definition. It doesn't mean that you have to have this definition. You can have any definition you want about enterprise agility. It depends on the company, it depends on the type of language you use, it depends on the short-term objectives. It depends on many things. Now, for me, business or enterprise agility, which for me is same, is the capacity for the company to adapt to these new market conditions. And the idea is that you're going to create a competitive advantage. But the key thing here is what is here in orange, which is without negatively impacting on in organizational health. And this is a key thing. And then you can say, Eric, what is organizational health? Well, that's an interesting thing. And that's why I wanted to go through the different definitions just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So for me, organizational health, and that's my definition, your definition can be different, is psychological safety plus creation of sustainable business value in perpetuity. That means that people feel safe, and when we try to do something, then we are able to do that something on perpetuity. Which means, for example, imagine that you have to work long hours. Maybe you are able to release the product, maybe you are able to meet that deadline, but that's not going to be sustainable. So we are not talking about good organizational health, but I'm going to go deeper in this aspect here. And another concept I wanted to review before starting with the presentation is about resilience, which is the ability to recover from adverse situations. Probably most of you know this word now. When we are talking about companies, we have also a specific kind of resilience. So with resilience in the company, we have two more. So resilience when your life is about trying to recover from adversity. I mean, you have a problem, something happened, and you recover, but you recover in a good way. You recover and you are able to confront the situation in a better way than before. Now, in the company, we also have two more types of, from my perspective, of resilience, which is procedural resilience, which is how the different procedures help you to recover in the company. If you have good procedures that support organizational health, so all these procedures in the company are going to speed up this process, especially if that's a healthy company. And also, we have social resilience, which is how the team, how the people around you support you to recover, okay? And this is the different types of resilience we have in an organization. And these three concepts are key. It doesn't mean that you have to use the same definition, but at least the key concept has to be ready for you to explain to everyone in the company whenever they need. And this is an important thing to make sure that everyone goes in the same direction. So why do we need enterprise agility? Give me your idea. So let's go back to the chat box so you don't fall asleep today, and tell me, why do you think we need enterprise agility? You said the word adapt. Let's see if you can tell me without using the word adapt or change. Let's see what you can come up. I'm gonna make it more difficult for you. Why do we need it? Okay, compete, yes. Yes, compete with the market, for example. Survive, oh, that's interesting, especially now in times of COVID. That has been very challenging for everyone, every company. Now it's more difficult. You cannot use the word change. Growth in a sustainable way, yes. To eliminate waste, okay, it's more like kind of lean perspective and provide clear value. Measure progression, measuring is a challenge. But let me see, adaptable to business conditions. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that soon. Because business conditions evolve frequently and you need to adjust in order to be or to stay successful. Oh, that's an interesting point, yes. Staying competitive, spread to market. And I want to go with the flow. This is very interesting concept also. We also have something called positive flow that I'm gonna be talking today. So let me show you something I have here. When I started writing my book a few years ago, I was in New Zealand. I was helping a bank. And I started seeing that people were not able to adapt to change. And started seeing that, apart from that, people had very good intention, but it was hard for them to adapt. And this is what I called exponential pace of change. An exponential pace of change is something which it goes very quickly, and sometimes people do not have the time to adapt. As human beings, I did a lot of research, and there is a lot of research about how long it takes for you to adapt to market conditions or to new things. And unfortunately, human beings are not that good on that. So exponential change of things, we have 5 things pushing the speed of change. And obviously, the first one is unexpected event happening in the world. We have been having that for years and centuries, and that's not new. But we also have short work cycles. A few years ago, companies started using short work cycles, and they started releasing faster and faster. What happened is every time you release something, you impact on the market. And every time you impact on the market, you impact on other people, other companies, other people's lives, other people's ways of working. The more you release or the faster you release, the more you're going to impact on the market. And we see today most companies are using Scrum, or they are using different techniques such as Kanban to impact the market faster and faster. And that's making, for example, imagine you are just about releasing a product and someone releases a better product than yours, and then you need to adapt and adapt quickly. Then we have people interconnected. This is the internet. We have nowadays what I call shared knowledge. It's easier for you to be in different parts of the world and build knowledge. And that was more challenging before the internet. We have artificial intelligence. I've been seeing so many cool things now with artificial intelligence that is impacting on the way we work. And we also have big data. So these things are increasing basically the market disruptions. So this is going faster and faster and faster. And then we have companies that just started working with sprint if they are using Scrum 2 weeks, and then they are using 1 week, and they're trying to adapt faster and faster. And the main question here is, as a human beings, how we can adapt faster to change. And we have certain, a human being, we have certain restrictions, and we have to have that into mind. And also, when we are talking about enterprise agility, we are talking about changing the value stream. And when we talk about value stream, we are talking about different people that, or people who are present somewhere, they are present to create a product. We have completely different mindset. Imagine that you give the same problem to someone from the financial area, and then to someone from the IT department at the IT department, and someone from any other department in the organization. You give exactly the same problem, and then you ask for a solution. What you're gonna find, this is nothing new, guys, is that everyone is gonna give you a different solution. This is because every person has a certain biases based on their profession. And then, for example, someone from finance is gonna come with a specific solution, and then someone from IT with a different one. It doesn't mean that inside IT they're not going to have different solutions, but people tend to follow certain brain patterns, certain values and principles. When we are talking about value stream, imagine you want to produce create some product. In order to create this product, you have people from different areas. You have marketing, you have finance, you have IT, you have many different mindsets in there. So when we want to change those people's mindsets, it's always very challenging. I remember 2 years ago, no more than 2 years already, like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I was working in Asia with a very big bank. It was Monday morning. I went to work. I was helping a consultancy company, and they sent me to a bank to try to help them. And then when I arrived to the bank, I expected the typical question: Eric, we want you to help us with the Scrum and something else. And then they told me, Eric, we wanted to expand Agile or agility to the rest of the organization. And we have certain kind of people that, we have finance, and we have other people. And none of those guys wanted to share knowledge. They were working on their own. They had been working on their own for many years. And we want them now to work together as a team. Imagine the challenge. And we also want the ways of working to be compatible with other ways of working that we have been using in the IT areas. And that was very challenging. So at that point, I started developing certain new techniques to make sure that you can get everyone on board. Because the challenges you have is, as soon as you go outside IT, then there are certain things that you use in IT or concepts coming from Agile that maybe those concepts do not work very well. Maybe you need to adapt them. Maybe they work well. You are talking about releasing something constantly. Maybe that concept, that idea works very well, but other ideas you have to adapt, or even practices. If you try to import certain practices from IT, for example, a stand-up meeting is going to work very well everywhere, but other practices maybe do not work very well outside IT. And we have a lot of experience nowadays on how to deal with IT problem, but sometimes when we try to export those ideas outside of those areas, is very challenging. So let me try to explain first. When you have different mindsets, what you do. And one of the things I wanted just to show you is that when you work in a company, maybe you find people who want to change. Maybe you find people who do not want to embrace that change. Maybe you find people in a team that they want to change, but other people, the team, do not want to change, or teams where there is a person with high resistance to the change. Maybe they are interacting with teams that are not or are embracing those new ideas. Maybe managers, maybe the CEO does not even know what Agile is. Maybe for many CEOs, I generally come across, it's all about the speed. maybe they do not have a proper vision about the company. Maybe you have teams that are not IT teams, and they ask you to embrace agility. And how you do that? Well, and then, well, finally, the customers. For some companies, customers are at the very end of the queue. So how we can use different techniques. And let me check if you have any questions, guys. So true describing your world. Well, welcome, welcome to the real world, guys. So that's the problem. And I'm gonna teach today something I created a long time ago, which is called the triangle of the change journey. So one of the problems we have as a change consultant, when I say change consultant, can be anyone, can be a scrum master, can be an HR, anyone trying to influence change in the company, is that how we identify the techniques that we need to use with the target group. Imagine that you go to the company tomorrow and then they tell you, okay, so I want you to help these people in this team to embrace change. One of the main issues for consultants is that it's difficult to identify which techniques to use. And that's a challenge. So I created this triangle of the change journey, which is basically based on neuroscience of change. Neuroscience of change is how the brain works when we are exposed to change. And we have a lot of research. So this framework is quite easy to understand. It does not require a lot of knowledge to understand how it works, but it guides you to try to understand which techniques you have to use, which with kind of people. And then the triangle of the change journey is based on very clear concepts. This is something I also talked about in my book. And this pyramid is based on 5 different mindsets. Sometimes where I think companies, they work like a football team, me against them. So this team against the other team, competing for resources, competing for ideas, competing for many things. And when we have this kind of mentality, it's different to break it. But it's a mindset. So the change journey is based on 5 different mindsets. There is no good or bad mindset, but what the pyramid says is that we have 5 different mindsets. The closer we are to the top, the easier it is for people to change. So basically, we start with the bottom, which is far away from change. If you have people on this mindset, then you're going to need to do something very specific. The first mindset is generally people that they said, I want things to be as I say. I don't care about you. Maybe you came across someone saying these kind of things. So when people are this very at this mindset, then these kind of people see the change and the person proposing the change as the same. They do not want anything related to that person. They don't want anything related to it. They don't want to go in that direction. They want to just try to go in the direction they want, and they are not open to anything. And I imagine you came across this kind of people, and I just make sure that you understand that this is a kind of mindset. When you come across this mindset, are people who are generally afraid, consciously or subconsciously, about their position. This is the very basic level. This is a level just where there is a lot of fear, conscious or subconscious fear, where people are afraid of losing their job, losing prestige. For example, many companies. Sometimes we talk about servant leadership. And what we don't have into mind is that for many people, having a position is about having also prestige. So when we are talking about, for example, a specific position, let's say managers or any other position in the company, or leaders, sometimes becoming a servant leader, the word servant in their subconscious doesn't resound very well and doesn't give them much prestige. So when people are losing prestige, or they have conscious or subconscious fears that they would lose their position in the company, people do not want to move in any direction. So when we see people that are in this mindset, it's not a good idea to teach a new framework. It's not a good idea to show PowerPoint telling them in which direction we want to go. We need to address first which fears they got. And this is something very important. When people do not want to move and they say, I want things to be as I say, I don't care about you. And when they don't care about you, as I said, they see change and the person proposing the change has the same thing. And this is very, very basic level. You need to address those fears first. And sometimes very direct questions are gonna start giving us information, but sometimes you have to read between the lines. And the first step here is to work on those people to reaffirm that they are not gonna lose a position, try to see if they are not losing prestige with this new change we are doing, trying to reinforce and this prestige and try to reinforce the role and try to make sure this person feels safe. Unless you work on these areas and unless you focus on those things, you should not move to the next level with people. And what I propose is when you work and you find these kind of people, you work on the right-hand side of the pyramid, different techniques that you can use to make sure that you reinforce these areas, right? This area of making sure that people basically feel safe. Then when the person feels safe, they move to the second level, which is I don't like the proposed change. And then there is a change here. When the person do not like the proposed change, is because the person decided to move to a new mindset where it's not about fear here, it's about certain topics that do not allow this person to move forward. Let me tell you a story. It was 2012 approximately, and I went to a company. I probably was not the only coach. There were probably they passed through that company 20 coaches or 15 coaches before. Sometimes in companies, coaches are like carousel. Every year they hire a new coach and they go there and they try to propose something else and they try. And this company spent a lot of money trying to influence change in the company. And somehow the change didn't work as they expected. And every year, obviously, they call someone else to see what was happening. And one day, I was talking to one department, and they told me, Eric, every year they try to propose some new ideas. The ideas are cool, but all these ideas just do something we don't like, which is they get rid of one of the products, software products, that we were developing for many, many years, and we are very proud of this product because it's like our baby. You know, when you propose a change, when you propose a procedure or you help with a piece of software, you take ownership of that, and it's like your baby. So at this point, these people did not like the proposed change because they were very proud of this piece of software. Nobody asked them why they didn't want to change. And then these people consciously or unconsciously were pulling back the change. They were just not supporting it because every new proposed for change were getting rid of this piece of software. And they were very proud. So we worked with this team, well, we're a couple of teams, to make sure we involved them into the change. We gave them prestige. We even organized a bye-bye party for this software, where we celebrated this software was living like a person, right? Leaving the company. And then everything started changing. So when people do not like the proposed change, this you have to ask more straightforward questions, why you don't like it. But in general, at this level, it is because people are losing something. And this is because maybe people do not have certain skills, or maybe they don't feel comfortable about the situation. And in here, what we need to make sure at this level is that, and this is something we have seen is what is in it for me. people have to start feeling that there is something important for them and relevant, that they are going to learn something new. And this Daniel Pink, for example, was talking about this. It has to be something where people learn something new, then they take ownership of this change, and also it's relevant for them. And this is a level where we have to analyze these kind of things. Then when you make sure that people, for example, feel that whatever they are doing is important, that they are learning something new and they can take ownership of this, they move to the next level, which is, I do not understand why they change. And this is a turning point. We have an inflection point here. In this mindset, people start understanding that they need to change, but they do not understand why they change. It's not really that they do not understand the change. It's maybe they do not have the skills. And in here, people start asking you, telling you, yeah, we want to change, but I don't have the skills. So at this level, yes, guys, you can teach a Scrum to that person. You can teach different skills. This is about the skills, equipping, adding, teaching these people different skills. What we see at this level are people that do not have the skills. For example, imagine that you are working with a team, and this team do not work to, or these people, a specific person do not work to move in that direction because he does not know about the Scrum, he doesn't know about, for example, cost of delay or any specific technique, or he cannot see very well in which direction the company is moving. So at this level, yes, you can reinforce why we're going in certain direction. We can analyze which skills we need, and also we focus on the procedures, which procedures we need to change for this person to feel comfortable to go in that direction. Then when this person have the skills and we have the right procedures and the person feels comfortable about embracing change, this person start talking, okay, maybe I have a good idea, but I have my ideas also. We need to analyze at this level which ideas the person have, and if those ideas are compatible or not with the proposed change. And this person has to be heard. And it's more about teaching skills at this level. And then we move, when the person is ready for change, they move to another level. This, I do not understand why we must change. And if you see here, the person moved from the individual to the team. Imagine that this guy wants to change, but nobody wants to change in the team. Nobody sees the value of this change in the organization, in the team. Imagine they have 5 people in the team. What's going to happen? So nobody's going to go in any direction. So when we say, I do not understand why we must change, it means that this person is ready to change, but unless the people around, the close people around them do not want to change. If they do not want to change, they're not going to change. This person is going to pull back. This is what we call social pressure. Nobody wants to go in that direction, you probably don't go in the company. So what we need to work here is with the whole team. We need to make sure that the whole team understands the values and the principles of why we are going in that direction. We need to understand that the team has proper working agreement that supports the change. We need to understand if we have the right procedure for the team. The leadership at this level is crucial. Leadership has to reinforce the vision and mission for the teams and for the company. And it's all about the team dynamics. If the team dynamics do not work very well, if, for example, the team, if a team does not have clear working agreement, maybe they are going to have high levels of conflict, and then they are not going to be able to embrace change very well. So this is all about the team. We need to make sure that everyone is on board on the team and they are supported and they have the right procedures. And then when we are in this mindset, it is a collective mindset, this person is finally going to be able to change, and they are in this positive state of flow that psychology talk about, the positive state of flow as a state where people feel well about embracing change, right? So let's stop here for a second. I'm going to ask you to review this pyramid and to see if you have any questions. So what I do is when I go to companies, guys, and work with other coaches, is I ask them to take this pyramid and think of which techniques you could use, which each of these levels. And then we put post-it, and this is something you can do. Think of the different levels, different mindsets, and which techniques you can use. Then think of someone in the organization. Don't tell me that everyone is at the bottom down, because I'm not gonna believe that. I don't take that. But for sure, there are people at different levels of this, different mindsets. And then I asked the guys to make sure they write down. This is something you can do in your spare time, to take these different levels and try to know techniques that you can use. In general, what I see is that people at this basement, the foundations of this pyramid, they know less techniques, and then the more we go higher, they know more techniques, because obviously they are related to frameworks and to procedures. So do we have any question about this pyramid of change journey? So I give you 1 minute to review it, and then we continue with this. And tell me how this is going. I'm gonna open the chat box now. I'm gonna see if you have any question about this. Anything you want to know about this pyramid of change journey. The important thing here is that you have 5 different mindsets. There is no good or bad mindset, but our mindset. And sometimes we go into this idea that, oh yes, these people coming from X background or X different techniques, we don't like them, or they don't like change. In here, everyone wants change, but it's different the technique we have to use. Okay, so I give you 1 minute. So think if you have any question about the triangle, and please tell me, and then we can, otherwise we can go ahead. So 1 minute, think of that and tell me what you think. Any question about this, guys? No? You sure? Okay. So, okay, we have something here. Let me see. No, okay, great. Thank you very much. So in here, guys, the beauty of the pyramid, this is based on neuroscience of change, is that it's not focused on the techniques. So when I go to every company, I ask them to develop their own techniques. Maybe for a company, I don't like the proposed change, means the idea has to be the same, the concept the same, but the techniques we are going to use are different. And then, yes, okay, the difference between the last 2 items at the top of pyramid, okay, Sumoli. So this is something very interesting. I don't know why, but people in many companies, they struggle with these 2 levels. So this is very, very important. I don't understand why they change, and I don't understand why we must change. It is basically when we say, I do not understand why they change. Yes, so someone said there are 4 listed changes. Well, the 5th one, embracing change, is also a mindset. So that's why we have 5. And that's a good question that you say, well, you said 5, but there are 4. So we have 4 plus change. Embracing change is also a mindset. So people struggle with these 2. I don't understand why they change, and I don't understand why we must change. So this is clear. When we say, I don't understand why they change, I'm focused on myself. I don't care about the rest of the team. So in here, we are talking about, I do not have the right skills. I do not understand why I should move in this direction. I do not. It's all about me. Now, when we say, imagine you are ready to change, all right? Imagine you want to change, and then you go now back to the team, and the team says, we don't want to go in that direction. How many times it happened to you? You have a great idea, you go back to the team. So the difference is that it moved from me to the team. So the top level, we work with the whole team. For example, we make sure that the team has very good working agreement. We make sure that the team has low levels of conflict, and it's all about supporting the team, the procedures. And this is very, very important. So in general, sometimes we focus or on the team or on the people, sometimes on both, but we need to understand that if the team do not have the right means to support the change, even if people isolated in the team want to support change, they are not going to go in that direction. This is, I always say, every time I go to a country, imagine I think I was in some country. I was in China a few months ago before COVID. I was just about taking the metro, the underground metro, and everyone started rushing and running toward the metro. What I did, I ran. Obviously, I don't know why, but I ran. If everyone runs in a country you cannot understand the language, you run. Just believe me, you do that. So in companies, it's similar. If everyone is doing something, then the social pressure is going to affect you, right? So the difference is between me and the social. So the technique you put in at the top of the pyramid had to be focused on team dynamics. Any other question, guys? You have? Okay, what if the team and middle management says they do not want to change? Okay, so the first thing I propose is that you try to, in your mind, there is no right or wrong, try to classify people into these 5 different mindsets. Then we need to understand how we're going to tackle this. And obviously, if someone is at the very bottom of, I want things to be as I say, I don't care about you, you're not going to go and teach guys a new framework. You're not going to teach anything else. You have to try to address what the fears are. So we need to make sure that we've classified that. But I wanted to teach you something else now that is going to help you answer this question. And I hope it answers that. So I'm going to be talking about a powerful change plan. When we try to influence change in the organization, the main issue we have is that sometimes when we make changes, sometimes they do not work very well. This is something, every change is an experiment and you don't know until you try. Whenever you want to influence change, every idea you have is an experiment, is something you don't know if it's going to work or not, or if you're going to get the right outcome or not. But there are certain frameworks, change frameworks, that are going to help you to accelerate change. And I've been developing one specific change framework, which is to accelerate change or enterprise agility in the company. And I will show it to you, and I'm going to show you how it works. And this is what I call a powerful change plan. When you want to influence change, if you have certain components, that means that you are going to be able to, or people are going to be able to embrace change faster and with our resistance to change. And this is one of the things we want when we try to influence change. So enterprise agility, what is enterprise agility? So I gave you a definition, you have your own definition. Just remember also, companies can have different definitions based on their values, based on the way they talk, based on their dynamics. But the beauty of this framework I'm going to teach you now is that you're going to be able to create something called powerful change plans, which are plans that are going to help people embrace change faster. So from my perspective, when we talk about enterprise agility, and this is something I talk in my book, we talk about 5 different types of agility. And this is a very, very important concept. This is I represent this as a cake. Imagine a very nice chocolate cake. Very bad idea. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm here in Thailand. You can't imagine how difficult it is to lose weight at the moment for me. So at the very bottom, we have what we call mental agility. So imagine people as brains. Well, people are brains, but just imagine brains. Don't think of anything else. Just do not imagine a person has a body. So mental agility is the capacity for this person to see things from different perspectives and to reframe problems. And let me see, we have a question here. Follow the change triangle to find effective ways of losing weight. Okay, that's good. Yes, that's good. But sometimes, especially with the sugar, there is so much sugar here in Thailand. And this is something that it also happened in change. People generally have things closer, but habits. I always say, companies, guys, make sure make easy for people to follow good habits and hard for people to follow the bad habits. Imagine in a company, imagine I'm trying to lose weight and then I have a Coca-Cola machine near, it has 1 meter. If you like Coca-Cola, if you like cakes, you have a cake machine near you. Yeah, it's gonna be difficult to. So imagine now I move that machine, you are in the first floor to the 5th floor, and then there is no lift, elevator. Then you have to go up and down. That's gonna be difficult for you or harder for you to eat all these sweet things. I would say, guys, make easy for people to follow the right things and to embrace change, and make very difficult for them to embrace the old habits. And this is one of the techniques idea you can follow in the companies. Okay, so coming back, in here we have mental agility. So mental agility, for me, from my perspective, this is all my theory is, my whole book is based on that. If people are not able to reframe problems, if people are not able to think of the problems from different perspectives, then it's going to be hard for them to embrace change. Mental agility is about people being able to see a problem from different perspectives. So I want to do an exercise for you, a quick exercise. I just want to double check that you are okay to stay for 25 more minutes. Yes, if you are okay with that, then we go ahead. I wanted to try something then and see how it goes. So mental agility is about your capacity to reframe problems. Reframe problems is seeing the problem from a different perspective. But there is something which is key, and I'm going to explain to you in 1 second. And then my theory says that companies where employees have low levels of mental agility, then they're going to struggle with change, which makes sense. But now I think of that, I don't know how. Somehow now I think of this. So let's do this. Think of a friend or someone you admire, and that for that you're going to need some pen and paper, or you can use your notepad in your in your computer. And I want you to think of that friend. I'm not going to ask you who that friend is, so don't worry about that. And I want you, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to 1 minute to think of something you really admire. Can be a friend, someone from your family, can be someone else, can be even a politician, can be even from your company, can be anyone. Can be, if you're religious, can be someone you follow. I want you to think of 3 values that that person holds, and that's the reason why you like that person. So try to write down 3 values that this person has or embrace and you like about that person, and that make you trust this person, and that's the reason why you admire. So I'm gonna make you write. I'm trying to read your comments. Some of your comments are very funny, guys. So I'm trying to teach you how to think of mental agility and how it works. So do me that favor. Take 30 seconds to 1 minute. Focus on that person. Could be anyone you want, someone you admire, and note down those values. You don't have to share them with me. As soon as you are ready, you just write OK in the chat. And I'm gonna know that you are ready with this. Okay, so you got some values. So obviously, those people have also some principles. I'm not going to ask you to note down the principles because it can take a lot of time, but this is something we generally do in companies with people for this dynamic of trying to increase mental agility. And now I'm going to ask you to think of those principles, just to have a better idea of what the principles are. So you like the values. Okay, that's a great thing. And think of the principles. So now I'm going to ask you something different. I'm going to ask you to think of someone you don't like at all. Can be someone you met in your life at some point, can be someone, some public face, some politician, can be anyone you want. Think of a person that you don't like at all. For some of you, it's going to be very easy, especially when there are elections. Oh my goodness, in every single country, you can think of that person straightforward, in a very straightforward way. It happens everywhere. Or with football, with soccer, we know it always happens. So think of that person. Don't tell me the name. And I want you to note down 3 values that this person holds and that you don't share with that person, not at all. Think of anyone that you don't share the values. For example, if you do not believe that something is a good idea, and then that person think that we should go in that direction, you don't think it's a good idea direction. For example, if you think green energy is a good idea and someone thinks it's not a good idea, then maybe you can find someone there, or whatever you want, but it has to be someone you don't share those values. Try to think of that person and start thinking of principles from that person. For example, imagine I'm very keen on green energy, that person is not, or I'm very keen on certain thing, that person is not. I think those principles, we are totally opposite, in different direction. We go in different direction. I go this direction, the other person goes in the opposite direction. Okay? When you're ready, just put okay, and you tell me. So what I'm going to ask you guys now is, for 1 minute, I want you to embrace those values. When I say embrace, it means that you now believe that those values are the right ones. You really believe that this is the right direction to go. For example, if I say, I don't like this person because I like green and this person likes red, then now I love green. So imagine that now you love those values. Try to start thinking, now those values are all yours. Now this is the right way of thinking for you. You really believe that this is the right way of going. And you really believe that you fall in love with those values. And now you start thinking that you were wrong for your whole life. Now you're right when you embrace those values. and try to embrace those values. Probably when that happens, you start having some physical reaction. You start feeling in a different way. So tell me what happened when you try to embrace those values. Can you see anything? Is there anything happening there in terms of how you feel? Do you have any body reaction, or what's happening with you? You want to share with me? Oh, your man rejects them. Aha, that's interesting. You resist that and you have anxiety. Yes, yes, that's true. So give me some more. But yes, some people feel very uncomfortable with that. Some people even can feel very nervous. Some of these workshops we do, people feel very uncomfortable, especially when we work with in companies where we are able to experiment that with different people. I mean, people can embrace completely different values. People can feel very uncomfortable. So what happened here, there is an area in your brain called the amygdala, the brain amygdala, which is in the center of the brain. And when you try to embrace values or principles that are against your values, the amygdala ignites. So what happened with the amygdala? The amygdala ignites this fight or flight response mode, and it starts dropping some chemicals, hormones in your brain, and that those hormones, like cortisol, for example, increases your anxiety. Your brain is basically trying to make sure, trying to protect you, to say, do not go in that direction. It is dangerous. It's against your values. And people feel conscious and unconsciously uncomfortable. Also, when you try to embrace values that are completely opposite for you, your brain is telling you, no, no, don't go there. And many people experience, obviously, this physical reaction. And what your brain is telling you is that it's very dangerous for you, and everything dangerous has to be avoided. So the more we do this exercise, the more you become used to what we call reframing, which is reframing is an activity, very important activity to increase mental agility, which is the possibility for us to temporarily embrace other values and principles, even if they are against us. But we know it's temporarily, and we know that we're going to temporarily embrace them, but we come back to our values. So what we do in companies, we work with people and we do sessions where we try to make sure that they embrace as many mindsets, different values and principles as they can. The more you do this exercise, the more you diminish the activation of your amygdala, the more comfortable you see. Sometimes when I go to companies tell me, Eric, yeah, we try to put on the client shoes, and we do it very well. And then you try to make sure that they embrace the values from those customers, and they do not feel very well when they try to do that. So reframing is not about seeing a problem from a different point of view. It's embracing the values and principles that that person has. And in my book, I explain a couple of techniques that you can use. But what we have seen is that the more comfortable we are at doing this exercise, in fact, what we have seen is these are frames, what we call frames to a different perspective with different values. The more frames we are able to embrace, and the easier we see we feel at doing that, the more flexible we are, And when I say flexibility, we are talking about a concept, very important concept called neuroplasticity, which is how our neurons connect. So the more point of view and values we are able to experience, the very beginning is difficult, you don't feel well, some people feel even nausea, but the more comfortable we feel about that, the more the neuroplasticity increases, the more we are able to, these neurons are able to connect. And this is mental agility. So what we tried before in my theory, in my book, maybe I'm wrong, what I try to do is to do certain technique for people to embrace. There are games, I also explain in my book many games you can do, but we try before doing anything, we try to make sure that we increase neuroplasticity on those people. And this is very, very important thing. Without people being able to have a basic level of mental agility, any framework you're gonna, or any change you're trying to influence in the company, is gonna be really, really hard. So after we start working with people to embrace change and to try to see things from different perspective, and we help people increase mental agility, we have the second type of agility, which is social agility. Is how people connect to each other. Imagine that people do not connect very well, then it's going to be very difficult for them to embrace change. And this is how people connect in a physical or virtual environment. I also talked in my book, and remember my book, first edition was published 3 years ago, and the second edition last year. And I was talking about something which is called recreate the social environment, in order to make sure that we create a virtual environment. Now it's very important with COVID, in order to make sure that people connect well, even if they are remote. But social agility is about how people connect. And many companies have done many experiments. For example, the Boston Consultancy Group, I was helping them a few years ago. And in the offices in New York, for example, a few years ago, they put a device to everyone in the company, and they tried to track how people move inside the workplace. And what they did is they redesigned the environment in a way that people come bump into each other, that not physically, right? But they cross more. So they force people to talk more. And then when people talk more and then they see how they are moving and they just bump into each other, we have seen that information flows better. So social agility is how people connect. If people don't talk to each other, then even if you are using a Scrum or any framework, it's going to be difficult for you to make sure that this change is successful. Then we have outcomes agility, is how good people are at adjusting strategy in the company, the budget, the product. So if imagine the company is going in certain direction and suddenly the company has to switch to a completely different strategy. How people are and how people feel about changing a strategy. Imagine YouTube, the company YouTube. YouTube, many people do not know that YouTube started as a dating website. So people uploaded their videos saying, hello, I'm Eric, I'm looking for someone, I've been single for a long time, etc. And they uploaded those videos. And then YouTube started like that. Suddenly they saw that it didn't work and they have to change the strategy to what YouTube is today. And YouTube is now a platform for videos, any kind of videos. So imagine they have to change the strategy. So outcomes agility, how good the company is at changing strategy and people feel about that, and changing strategy, budgets, and then changing those flows, etc. How people feel about this. If the company is not good, if people are good about connecting with each other, but if the company changes the strategy, everyone feels very afraid of and they don't feel comfortable, then this company is going to struggle to survive. Then the next level we have here is what I call structural agility, which is about the procedures. How good is the company about changing procedures? And in here, for example, if we integrate someone into changing procedure, for example, if we're going to change certain procedures and those procedures are going to affect certain group of people, we generally try to integrate those people into the design of those procedures, which means if you're going to change some procedures and it affects, for example, managers, then you should involve into the discussion of those procedures and the creation of those procedures to those managers. So structural agility is about changing procedures in a collective way, and then you have some agility to change those procedures in case the market there are market disruptions, or you need to adapt the company. And finally, we have technical agility, which is what we generally call agile. And that's my theory, guys. This is a cake I created in my book, and I said, okay, we need this kind of 5 different kind of agility. Now, what happened? Let me give you an example of why you need this. Every time you want to make a change or influence a change, you need to consider these 5 different kinds of agility. Let me give you an example. I was helping a company in Chile in 2016, and this company they installed a new piece of software for something very specific. The problem with this piece of software didn't work very well. It was a third-party piece of software, and this piece of software crashed from time to time. And what they needed is they needed someone coming back to the office in case the software crashed, to see why it happened and try to solve the problem. They could have done it remotely, but because of some security that the company didn't allow this remote connection in very specific pieces of software, the person had to go physically there. So I suggested teams that they create a new role called the samurai. The samurai was someone in the team that was like a superhero. This person could had an extra mobile phone, a cell phone, and then they could call this person at any time the application crashed. The person had to come into the office and solve the problem, and could be any time. As a result of that the person could come at any time, they gave them some benefits to that person. For example, this person could come to the office anytime they wanted. For example, the person, instead of coming at 9, could come every day at 11. They gave this person the right to attend to certain courses to increase skills. So this person has plenty of perks. And listen what happened here. We were talking about technical agility, where they just wanted to provide a tool to offer certain competitive advantage to customers. The person was coming, the application crashed at 3 in the morning one day. The person took the car, was going to the office, and at the time the person was going to the office, the person crashed the car. Nothing happened to the person, don't worry, just a small crash. The person finally arrived to the office. The person didn't know what to do. So the problem was very nervous and didn't know how to solve the problem with the car, how to go back home, what the procedure were, if they should contact someone from the team. And the person didn't know what to do. And also something very important, as the person crashed the car and was outside these working hours, the insurance from the company didn't cover this incident. So you can see here something that we wanted to, technical agility, we wanted a piece of software to provide a competitive advantage for a customer. It brought so many problems to the team, so many problems to the company. Suddenly the company have a legal problem because this person had an issue outside working hours trying to serve the company. It was a chaos. So as you can see, a small change in here is if you don't see this kind of 5 type of agility to solve the problem, then you're going to struggle. So when you change something, you need to consider these 5 types of agility. For example, if you need this company wanted to install a piece of software, they should have asked also structural agility. Which procedures are going to support this person, are supporting this person in order to get this good outcome of the person coming here? Do we have the right procedures? So social agility, how this person is connecting with the rest, how this person, if something happened, how the person connect with the rest of the team. Mental agility, does this person has the right mentality, or if something happens, to solve the problems. And then what we do here is a powerful change plan. Any change you do, you need to cut the cake vertically. So any change you make, even if it's small change in the company, you need to consider the types of agility. So we need to consider that they have the right kind of the right structure. They need to consider how people connect, if they have the right mental agility, they are able to reframe all the problems, etc. So every time we make a change, what we do is we try to touch each of these 5 different levels to create a strategy. And this is what we call powerful change plan. So as a change consultant, you need to make sure that you cut always the cake in this way. And even if you are making a small change in an IT area about software, you consider the other 5. Which changes do I need to do in order to make sure that we consider or we improve the other types of agility? Does it make sense for you guys? And this is what we call a powerful change plan. When companies think of a change, they focus on one of these areas only. So I want to expand this concept and make sure that you expand the agility to these 5 types. And what I do is I put this cake. It's not an edible cake, just not sugar here. I put the cake and I ask everyone in charge of making or influencing this change to locate the change in which part of the cake the change is. Many times we think of just we solve the problem with software only, but it has other repercussions here. So I ask them to consider the other areas and put post-its on seeing how that's going to influence these areas and which changes or which things I need to tune up on the other areas in order to be successful with that change. Does it make sense, the 5 levels of agility, guys? Yes? Any question you have here? Yes, you're going to have a presentation, a PDF, I promise. Yes. So when you start seeing the organization agility at 5 levels, everything changes because the technique you have to use sometimes it's not just about changing a procedure, is how people are going to connect after this procedure, is how if people in that area you are changing that procedure have the kind of the right mindset to reframe things, to see things in different way. Do we have the tools, the technical agility to do that, etc. So this is how we have to see change in 5 levels, right? Yes, my book is available in Amazon. It's available in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and it's also in Audible book. It's called Living Exponential Change. You have it on the right-hand side. It's worldwide, it's 2nd edition now. I'm very, very glad. And this is what I propose. And this is also something which uses some of the techniques of reframing, because now you are thinking of the problem as solving something very specific using just one tool. Mainly companies focus at the very top, technical agility. Maybe sometimes some structural agility, changing some procedures, but they forgot the rest. So what I propose, guys, is that instead of eating the cake just with the top layer, you start cutting the cake in a vertical way. Some people say, Eric, which technique we can use in any of these? Okay, so when we are talking about mental agility, there are many techniques called reframing techniques to help people. And my idea behind is that if people do not have the right levels of mental agility, whatever you do in the company is going to be harder. Companies where people are able to and I talk in my blog about that, people are able to reframe issues, then it's going to be harder for the companies to embrace any framework or even to embrace market disruption. As the markets are changing faster and faster and faster, people need to embrace this idea of constantly reframing problems and feeling comfortable with that. And then you need to make sure when you focus on the different levels is that as a change consultant, as a scrum master, as an agile coach, you learn different techniques at each level. Social agility, how we make sure that people connect well. If you have the product owner on the fifth floor and the team developing something on the second floor and someone else, the customer is somewhere else, that's not going to work. For example, in order to increase social agility, I was helping an airline, the biggest airline in Latin America, a long time ago. And in order to increase social agility, one guy of the team asked me, Eric, we never met the customer. So what we did is we took the development team, the product owner, and some stakeholders to the airport. It was an airline. And then we asked them to talk to the customer in the queue to see which problems they were facing and to make sure that they understand. We try to increase this connection, this social agility between customers and even people with the front desks. And everything changed. We started doing when we started doing different things, people started connecting better with customers and also with the people working on the front desk, and they started seeing problems from a different perspective. Something else I did in New Zealand in a supermarket, I took the team, I suggested the team should put a table in the middle of the supermarket. We installed, just set up some servers and some computers, and we put a table in the middle of the supermarket with the dev team and the product owner. And then they were working there and talking to customers and getting great ideas. And then they did a very short sprint where they were able to experiment and ask the customers. Imagine you are developing something, you have a customer, hey, what do you think it could be a good idea if you would be able to scan with your mobile phone the product and get a discount or get which things this product has in terms of nutrition, like for example, sugar and fiber, and then maybe you are on diet and we use traffic light and we tell you don't go for this product, go for a different one. So we shorten also these cycle loops with other people, right? So we have now 5 minutes, guys, and then Jonah says that she's excited to cut the cake vertically. Okay, I'm very, very glad that you are excited. It generally forces you to do some reframing. And also it helps you analyze in which areas you are weak. As change consultant, you're always good at something. You are not that good in other areas. So it also helps us identify where we know more techniques to influence change. And we also have certain biases, guy. We always try to solve problems using the tools we know. We are what we know. And then this forces you to go outside the box and start thinking of other ways of doing things. So we have just 4 minutes. If you have any question about the techniques we have seen today, I hope you ask now, and then I try to help with that. I'm gonna give you 1 minute for questions. I hope that my very strong Spanish accent didn't ruin your presentation today, and you were following me with the ideas and the new concepts. These are all concepts I've been developing for many, many years of working with customers, this cake and the triangle of the change journey, and I hope that it helps you in your organization. And something I recommend is try to recall these ideas every week. Try to come back because it's easy to forget. with the pace of change, it's easy just to go into the flow and forget. And that every week you think of the 5 level of enterprise agility and the pyramid. So any question? Okay, cool. My accent is awesome. That's great. At least you are following me, which is a good thing, especially when I always say that when I was a kid, I had dyslexia, and they said I would never be able to learn English, and I would never be able to work in a job where I have to focus on something for a long time because I'm also hyperactive. So that forced me to do a lot of mental work in order to, use different tricks and different things to learn a foreign language. In fact, I learned English when I was 28. I started learning the language. When people tell you are not going to be able to do it, you start believing it until you realize that that's not the way. And this is something that also happens in companies. At the moment, for many people, are very hard times, and you are like a light there. You are like a leader. You are someone who's is gonna show them the way. I know it's hard times, guys, but I always say you are people who are gonna inspire other people. So I want you today to provide you with different tools to make sure that you succeed with this. So I think we are finishing. I'm open after this presentation. If you had any question, guys, you just reach me, just contact me, just on LinkedIn. You can add me on LinkedIn, and then we can be in touch. You can read my book. That I'm always glad if you have some feedback, and I hope that. Oh yes, so there are Gunter's book. Yes, there are many colleagues that we share the same ideas, and we believe that agility just goes beyond any framework or any small procedural change in the company. And I'm glad that, and we meet in every conference, and I'm glad that I'm not the only one trying to go in that direction. So thank you very much, guys, today. I hope we stay in touch soon. And that's it on my side today.